Being in a relationship this long has taught me, and the real, not cliche-ish, when it says don't be unequally yoked, because we're totally different people from 15 years ago. And if we were unequally yoked, we would have done this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's going in one area, I'm going in another area. If I don't understand what he's doing, he don't understand what I'm doing, it will always be a conflict. God knows the beginning and the end. He knew, okay, they're going to need to be in this particular mindset to deal with what I'm getting ready to bring them. He would have never told me, you're going to become a full-time real estate agent. Take Divine out of public school, you're going to homeschool. What? Those big milestones in life could cause conflict in a marriage if they're not on one accord. If they're not equally yoked in God. I'm not talking about two saved people. I'm not talking about a saved person and an unsaved person.
That don't make them equally yoked.
I'm talking about when God
handpicks.
When God puts two people together, He knows where they're going and what He needs for them for His glory. Basically for His glory.
Some of y'all think that, okay, the man has to be the man to say, he has to be the vocal leader. When God put two people together, He will deal with both of them. He will deal with them simultaneously, or He would deal with the one and then He'll deal with the other. They're just going to wait. They're going to pray and ask God, okay, God, let your will be done. And that's the benefits. Again, that's the benefits when you get connected with the one who God wants you to be with. And God is the one that orchestrates the whole thing. You don't manipulate nothing. You don't put yourself in the pathway of that person. Some of these brothers say this stuff again. He who findeth a wife findeth a good thing to take the favor of the Lord. What Solomon spoke, they taking it totally out of context. There's a way that's a God's way, and there's a man's way. That's a man's way. You go find your wife. You gonna find your good thing.
Solomon had a whole bunch of wives.
He had a whole bunch of concubines and wives.
Go right ahead.
You're gonna take that advice from somebody who had a whole bunch of concubines and wives. You go ahead. I don't want to follow him. I want to follow what God did with Adam and Eve. He only gave him one wife. That was it. Because that God knew that's all you need. You know, Solomon was brought down by the lust of his flesh, which idolization, which he idoled other gods. And because he had all of these wives, they was worshiping these other false gods. And it infiltrated his heart. So therefore, look what happened. He chose all of these women in the flesh, and come to find out, there's the main one that brought him down. See, a lot of times we get so indoctrinated by man's doctrine. The man is the household, the head of the household. Yes, there's an order. Don't let me change that. I'm not changing that. There is an order. It's the husband, wife, and children. There is an order. But it's something that you don't have to boast about and hold your chest out about. It's something that you don't have to say, hey, I am the leader. I am the... Come on, when you do all that, you really not a leader. A true leader, and who God put in place, if you notice, is an example of Christ. They don't boast about who they are. They just live who they are. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I just have to live who I am. I have to represent my wife. I have to represent my daughter. When I go outside this household, I got to carry myself like I know that not only them, whatever the choice that I make, I got to make sure that it doesn't affect them. But that's always my prayer. God, don't let me do anything stupid and ignorant that's going to affect my wife and affect my daughter. Don't let them be punished for my stupidity and my ignorance and the lust of my flesh. Brothers, if you're watching this, when you really get tapped and touched by God, and God take you through your process as a man, you're not going to be this high and mighty, all of this and that with your head stuck up. I am the man. You're not even going to be there. You're going to be just as humble. You're going to be one that like, okay, God, I'm grateful. Matter of fact, you're going to always feel unworthy because you know the responsibility of what comes with that. You're not going to be better than your wife who God chose for you. You're not going to be above her. Y'all going to be equally together because that's the way He created. But there will be a responsibility. God will hold you more accountable. Because He chose you as the husband, as choosing the wife, and not the other way around. He gonna be touching her to receive you, so you won't be looking like a fool when you approach her.
And ladies, one thing I can say for Marshall, the sexiest thing about my husband is when he obeys God. He looks different. He sounds different. I just wanna
watch out, see.
But when your husband obey God, that's the most sexiest quality of a man. If he is about himself, he has no humility. If he's not following God, that shouldn't be sexy to a woman of God. Because you want someone who's going to hear God's voice and obey. Not obey his own ways and his own wills and what he thinks he should do. But when he obeys God, that is the most sexiest quality. And I told him, I said, man, you looking all sexy. God told you to do what? Oh, and you did it? Oh, you look so sexy. Because in the spirit, that's the kind of man that should attract you. That's the kind of man, if you have a man who wants to please God, who is after God's own heart, he's not going to disrespect you. He's going to cover you. He's going to protect you. He's going to make sure he's not looking at you all lustfully. God shows you who that person is the first day, the first time y'all meet.
Yeah.
You don't need 2 or 3, 4, 5 months to figure out if he's the one. Trust me, I was going on dates prior to him before God told me to stop dating. And I would pray, God, show me if this is my husband. If not, I don't want to waste my time or his. The first time, the first date, I knew. And if there was any time I allowed it to go after that, I wanted to make sure it was God and not me. I wanted to make sure, God, you sure God? You sure this is not my husband? Because that's what I wanted to be. But 9 times out of 10, you already know. God has already shown you. He's not trying to waste his time because he's trying to get his purpose across in your life.
Right.
He's trying to get his glory in you. He gets the glory in marriage when he puts it together.
Yep.
So when that man approach you and he's humble and you know it's God, that's the most sexiest thing ever.